Ah, that's my crotch.
You're sideways, Cory.
Yeah, is that gonna fuck people up?
This is not how. Oh, last night with Ryan, it was about a minute and a half, maybe till the first F bomb. 30 seconds for you. Less, actually, about two.
I just try to do whatever Ryan does, but faster.
That's not always a good trait.
I don't know how to make it. I might have to hold it.
Yeah, are you on your phone?
Yeah, you know what? He talked some smack about her last night. I wasn't happy about that.
Ryan did?
Yeah, said she wasn't a real bulldog.
That's true. He did say that. He said that exact thing.
Oh,
Dude, we got 10 people already. We're a minute in. It
whew.
took Ryan, oh, eight, never mind. It took us like 5 minutes at least to get to anything last night.
Do we say it's like one of those standing on the shoulders of giants type of things where we
Yeah.
thank Ryan for his contributions, or do we say that Ryan just isn't the quality that we're looking for?
I kind of think it's a snowball rolling down the hill, right? So as we keep going, we get more people. There we go. All right, Cory, tell me about your day. What'd you get up to down south?
Oh, woke up to the sunlight, which is still there.
Yeah.
Did lots of reading and emailing. Working from home is on the couch with Chloe. Right now, Masha works. We made a little office in the bedroom, so she works by the window. But we have to set up a real office. So she gets that office, I get the couch. Worked for a few hours from 7 to 9, and then Masha's parents, my parents-in-law, have been here for the last 2 weeks. So we finally sent them back to Canada to hunker down in their own home.
Oh wow, they waited that long, hey?
Well, they first came 2 weeks ago, and they were going to go to Indian Wells, which is a big tennis tournament in Palm Springs, which is a couple hours from here. They were
Hmm.
going to go for a week there, watch, come back, and then hang out with Masha and I for a week. And then as the Corona stuff started happening a lot, they decided we weren't sure what to do, and then we thought, you know what, you're kind of self-isolating already. You're just hanging out here. There's a couple pools in our community, and so they just stayed. And we said maybe it's safer to just stay still. Now it's been 2 weeks, so we said okay. They just put on a travel announcement. Air Canada is not going to have any flights Phoenix to Toronto for the whole month of April.
Oh wow. So gotta get out.
So it's like I get out. So finally took them to the airport. That took a chunk of the day, and then came back, did some more work. Mosh and I were just by the pool for a minute, getting some rays, vitamin D, for health
Nice.
reasons.
Jer Shepherd's asking us if he's doing it right by just watching us talk. So I'd
Jerry, you're
say
supposed to keep hitting the like button.
as many times as you can.
How many times can you hit the like button, Jerry?
Um, all right, so okay, you're a different story. Most of well, a few of the other guests that I'm going to have on this week work currently within the Canadian Sport Institute network.
Yeah.
You did up until a couple weeks ago. So for the whopping 8 people that are watching right now, tell us about it.
All right. So I did work with you in the Canadian Sport Network, and now I work for the Chicago Cubs.
Hmm.
Um, I'm the head of strength and conditioning and performance science on the minor league side. In professional baseball, a lot of people know in thank you,
Sorry.
Jim.
Yeah.
A lot of people know in general the major league teams and the fact that they do spring training, but and that there are minor leagues, but every team has at least 200 minor league players, so there's a large number of players. So I've been down here in Scottsdale. This is where I'm going to live full time. We had spring training going on until we closed our doors this week, and that's minor and major league spring training. So I oversee all the training on the minor league side and testing. And we have an extremely large number of athletes, which is a little bit different than what we were used to. Like you think of the softball team and you're looking at 25.
Hmm.
Now, I don't have to coach them all, which is good in terms of I don't have to think of 200 individual programs and see every 200 players myself, but we have a team of coaches that does that. So we'll still have sort of 25 to a coach. So it's up to me to sort of go through how we're going to go about that and organize that. that side of things.
Very cool. Yeah, no, that's pretty exciting. I think that that's obviously an opportunity that came up for you, and it would have been tough to pass up, I'm sure. So I'm happy you did it because now I get to live vicariously through you, see what it's all about, and see if it's see if it's worth the trouble. You know, you're already becoming
Absolutely.
American. You don't get any of our news anymore. You don't know what's going
No,
on anymore.
no, but I know we can still talk baseball, softball, linkage, so
Hmm.
it's good. It's a good
That's fun.
connection still.
So while you were telling that story, I heard a very distinct noise in the background. Can you tell me what you're drinking right now?
Yeah, I'm drinking. It's called. I'm going to show you the can. It's called Moo Point from a company called Helio Basin, which is just down the road from me, and it's an imperial chocolate milk stout,
Wow,
and it
thick.
tastes like dessert. It tastes like pure chocolate.
I bet. All right, sounds good. Well, you've inspired me to crack a beer myself. So I've got the Malternate Reality
Oh,
going, which is a New England IPA from North Brewing in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, which is nice. You know, during times like this, it's nice to support local. You know, these companies have pretty much
yeah.
shut their doors for the most part, so helping them out any way I can, one beer at a time.
There's only one way to do that, and that's to drink one beer at a time and do your best for the people around you. But I'm a big fan of the New England style IPAs, all the citrusy, hoppy
Yeah,
IPAs.
if I was to use three words to describe it, it would be juicy, hazy, and tropical.
Oh, those are my three favorite words for beer.
Yeah, it's written on the side of the can. So, okay, Cory. So again, just like last night with Ryan, I have a couple
Yeah.
questions prepared to kind of keep us on task a little bit. And you know, part of the reason we ended up wanting to do this is you know not to just talk S&C, not to talk all about strength and conditioning. You know, to get a little bit into detail of you know where we people that are in our field come from, what kind of path we took as people, what Chloe's chewing on right now, um, and just chat because you know we're all stuck in our basements on our couches.
Yeah.
Um, so give me a little bit of your backstory in terms of like where you grew up, where you went to high school, what were you doing during that time in your life?
Yeah. So I grew up in a small town south of Ottawa named Metcalfe. It's like a 1,000 person town. Very small, but that's Larry Robinson is from that area, so it's not completely devoid of any cool stuff. He brought the Stanley Cup when he won it with the Devils around the year 2000. I don't remember exactly what year, but so Larry Robinson Arena is there. There's hockey and not much else.
Hmm.
So I grew up playing. I started playing football when I was pretty young, 10 years old, and two brothers. And when it was time to go to high school, went to school in Ottawa, so it took a bit of a long commute to go into a high school in Ottawa for a few different reasons. There was one out in the country, but this one we could play football, and then there was also a gifted program for education stuff. So did high school, played football and volleyball in high school, and then my last year of high school I had an exercise science class, and I loved that a lot. That was uh, it was neat. It was like a little bit of biomechanics, a little bit of anatomy. They had the basic health stuff. Um, like the capstone project for the class, you had to take an athletic movement and you had to like break it down and try to define like the contributing parts. It would be so interesting to go back and see now
What you did?
what I think I it was a throwing motion for a football, but I can't tell you like what I said then, what I thought was the truth at 17, 18 years old. But um, that at that moment, I realized like I really wanted to study that type of stuff. I was a huge sports head all along growing up. I watch all the major sports, follow all the major sports. I kind of know what's going on in sports all the time. And so up to that point, I did really well in maths and sciences and was intending to go into engineering. So I was going to go into mechanical engineering probably. And then when I took exercise science, then I quickly switched all my applications and then applied for kin and phys ed. Then undergrad, I went to University of Toronto and played football there and did kin. And while I was there, we didn't have a full-time strength coach. So that's changed a lot since our time. Um, as students is back then a lot of the teams would just have these small contracts, $2,000 to $3,000 to give to whoever they wanted to train some of the different intercollegiate teams, but it wasn't organized through the university very well. So with football, one of our coaches used to give out programs that he got out of a book, probably Husker Power or a few other basic S&C books, but he wasn't a strength coach. And so as I was going through my football career, I was doing pretty well personally, and I knew I wanted to try to play pro. I just got the feeling that there was way more to the training side than what we were being given. So I started to kind of study the training side on the side as I did my classes and stuff, because classes in undergrad in Canada don't really do a whole lot in terms of performance. So then by the time I finished my career, I kind of realized I wanted to go into high performance sport. I still didn't quite know whether that was S&C or nutrition or other, but by the time I kind of graduated, I realized I wanted to be in the gym and helping people train.
Very nice. So you sort of touched on a couple of my other questions, but one of the things I was gonna ask, and the reason I asked this question is because I had a group of kind of really good friends when I was in junior high and at the beginning of high school, who, you know, we've taken really really different paths. Some of those guys have you know, gone to trade school and had really good careers there. Some of them, you know, didn't finish junior high. And these were guys I hung out with every single day. Like we met up at my house on the way to junior high and did our hair together, put the dippity do in there, and and walked to school.
Walk to the
So
corner store.
yeah, exactly. So, you know, it's weird the way the paths of life take us. So I'm kind of wondering what some of your good friends from, you know, junior high or high school are up to today. Not no specifics necessarily, but just in general.
You know, in general, one, I'll say that I didn't stay as close with them as I thought when I moved away. So going to school in Ottawa and then moving to Toronto for school, I didn't stay that close with a lot of my high school friends. Ironically, so I have an identical twin, Kyle, and ironically, he moved back to the same neighborhood where we went to school and grew up. So kind of reconnected with a bunch of them in different ways, and I've seen sort of what they've done. But at the time, right out of school, I didn't keep up with a lot of them. But it is true that there's one of the big things is like Ottawa is a government town, and so a lot of people go into government work, and then it becomes your sort of two or three kids, you know, suburban house, government job, 9 to 4. Everything's just, we'll call it normal or standard. So that's definitely different. The lifestyle that we live in sport, where we travel a lot, we go around the world and do different things like that. That definitely has become different. And now, you know, being in professional sport, like you grow up, everyone you know watches the different teams, and so everyone knows who the Cubs are. So uh, that's definitely changed.
And how many people are texting you, you know, for their fantasy rosters?
Surprisingly, not a lot for the fantasy rosters, but a lot of people said, "Hey, will I get tickets to the Cubs? Will I be able
Mm,
to get tickets?" So
yeah.
I'll have to be sensible about how I distribute.
I did text you about my fantasy draft, but you didn't give me any insider Cub information. You just gave me some information from just you being a sports fan, I think.
Well, I was trying to be extremely safe.
Yeah.
We definitely have some clauses in our
Guidelines. Yeah.
contract around playing fantasy sports as far as it goes, at least as far as money is concerned.
Hmm.
Um, I think I could play free fantasy sports without worrying about getting fired, but just to be safe, I was like, I'm not going to give you any Cubs info and I'm not going to play, but I'll
Yeah.
tell you about some players that are good.
That's the same as on Thursday night. I've got Alan Selby on, and he's with the Calgary Flames now. I did my master's degree with him in Calgary, and I tried to get him in on our fantasy hockey league this year, and not happening.
10-foot pole situation wouldn't
Yeah,
touch it,
that's
eh?
yeah, exactly. Um, you you already gave us some information on kind of how you got into S&C strength and
Mhm.
conditioning. When you were younger, though, you know, what did you think you were going to be when you grew up, or what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, in 1996, I wanted to be a sprinter. So when Donovan
Donovan
Bailey
Bailey, yeah.
set the world record in Atlanta, uh, 9.84 seconds, and then they set the world record in the 4x1 as well. I definitely wanted to be a sprinter, like literally went in the backyard and just sprinted whatever 30 feet I could that day. I quickly realized that wasn't going to happen. But I think I always thought I would do something math, science related. You don't ever think of that as being an avenue in sport, I think, when you're young.
Hmm.
But then as I got through school, you realize, like, oh, you can still do biomechanics is math and science for sports. So I think I thought I'd be an engineer, and then but didn't necessarily care about what type of engineering. I didn't necessarily have a passion that way. I definitely wanted to be an athlete. But then once I got to school, and like I said, that exercise science class and in the end of high school was the first thing where I was like, okay, you can do science around throwing a football, and you can do science around lifting weights.
Nice. So speaking of lifting weights, we're all kind of in a little bit of an isolation period right now, or maybe a quarantine period, depending on where you've been or what you've been doing. Um, do you have a home gym set up right now?
No, nothing,
Nothing. You can't give
nothing.
me
Lifting Chloe, that's it.
lifting Chloe. Oh, did you see the video I posted the other day of
Yeah,
when I was rowing Bodie? You
yeah,
could
I
probably do
did.
some work with Chloe
I
along those
can do
lines,
some.
eh?
They're probably the same weight. She's 23 pounds, and she's cute. But I don't. I have zero gym equipment. I have bands, so I do like pull aparts and clamshells and some walks around the room and some resisted push ups with some bands, and that's about it. I do not do. I have zero external loading here, which is slightly heartbreaking given the circumstances now.
Hmm.
When I left Montreal, I had a full set of kettlebells, all the way up to 48 kilos. And then when we were moving and we were shipping all of our stuff, we decided like it just wasn't worth it financially to ship everything. It just seemed like a waste. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to live right by the facility. I don't need extra weights. So I sent all my kettlebells to my cottage. So my cottage is super outfitted right now. It's got a
Stacked.
bar, bumper plates, all the kettlebells from 8 to 48, and it's pretty far away.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty far away.
But the weather's nice, so I try to take her for some walks. Um, Sitting by the pool, does that count as exercise?
Yeah, for sure. Exercising something. Yeah, probably your right bicep mostly. So Dan Noble just signed on. He said, "What's up, boys?" So hey Dan, hey Nobes,
Hey
how you
Dan,
doing, buddy?
hey Gnomes. I I
If
saw he's
anybody,
teaching his kids to fight zombies, which is obviously a huge bonus.
I
Two
think that's a
more to join the army.
I think that's a key skill coming up. I went to the grocery store today, and even though, like it's such a weird feeling. Like I had to go stock up for the family and stuff like that. But it's just a bizarre situation. Like, everyone's kind of doing the like dekes around each other to try to make sure, they're keeping their distance, which is awesome. It's perfect. It's what you have to do, but it's just such a weird situation to be in right now.
I know when Major League Baseball announced that they were going to cancel all of spring training and the start of the season, that was not last week, but the week before on Thursday. I don't know what day it was. The calendar kind of loses me now, but we made all this they made this public announcement, and then it started to go around the clubs, and within a couple hours it became a regular thing that everyone realized this was all getting shut down. Well, when they announced that, we started to send away non-essential staff and players like immediately. They started going, okay, well, if we're not going to play games and we're not going to have a start of season, we don't need to have a full spring training. And so they started sending people away. I was at the facility, and like when the day ended at 4 o'clock, usually I lift at that point. And I was sitting there going, this feels weird. Do I lift? Am I allowed? Am I allowed to still go and sweat on stuff? Can I touch things? Can I do like it was just this really weird feeling of like, what should I do? What shouldn't I do? What's okay? What's not okay? And that's what I find is so weird about the whole concept of this pandemic is like, if you don't have symptoms, respecting these boundaries is such a arbitrary concept if you're not feeling it.
Yeah, I mean, we had the first day that the sports center here in Halifax was shut down. For me, in Nova Scotia at the time, there were like one, maybe two cases in the whole province. But we were shutting down obviously out of precautionary measures, and and right away the athletes that I trained, so a couple gymnasts and a lacrosse player that I trained, they kind of reached out and asked about the sports that are being closed. And so we kind of set up a plan to come to my house on that Monday to do a workout at here. And then we quickly realized that was a bad idea for a few different reasons. So that didn't happen. But, we it's just one of those things that you have to really kind of, even right now, I've got an athlete who's down in Florida who I work with whose gym is open. She can go to the gym. But it's like I'm in my head bouncing the idea around, like, should I say, like, don't go, like, there's no, like, don't do it, don't worry about it. There'll be nobody there. Apparently it's like it's a private gym, and it's just one of those situations that's weird.
We had the same discussions, or at least I did, and with a couple of colleagues, and sort of the ethics and the reasoning around the decisions. Like, we decided to send all the minor league players home from camp to try to keep them out of the facility, so we didn't have all these players here, right? The idea was to limit the number of players, but they know that, assuming that this goes away in a certain period of time, whatever that's, weeks or months, that they'll start baseball again. They still want to train. They still want to be good. We want them to be good. It's in our best interest that they train. So they're going to go home, and then they're probably going to find a place to train. And some private places are just going to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to stay open
Yeah,
because I
here's
want
the
to make
keys.
money. I want to make
Yeah.
money. Or here's the keys. And so, for us doing our job, we want them to stay in shape, but at the same time, we want them to stay safe. So you have to kind of hope that they listen to the rules around, how many people are there? Are you constantly wiping down equipment? Do you have space between you and other people? Like, don't have more than 6 people in the place at one time. And all that stuff is kind of becoming normal, but it's still weird to think of, like, you want to go hang out with your buddies still, and lift with them, and that's normal, but it can't be for right now.
Yeah. Yeah, same thing. Like one of my colleagues at the sports center here, Mike Baval, and I usually we're kind of our workout partners together. We'll get our Friday gun runs in. We'll do some squats sometime during the week. And we had a plan just before Nova Scotia went into like full shutdown to come over here and do a workout. And then again, we also realized that was a bad idea. So that didn't happen. But let's switch gears a little bit away from the whole
Mm,
Corona
sure.
deal. So I'm going to ask you a question around your kind of hobbies and your interests outside of the weight room. But I do maybe want to get your Canada hobbies and interests, and then
Yeah.
after you're done with your normal or your previous life, what you're doing now that you're down in Arizona. So start with Canada.
Well, Canada was my cottage. So in 2017, my wife and I bought a cottage in Prince Edward County. So that's in Ontario, near Kingston, between Toronto and Montreal, basically halfway, slightly more towards Toronto. It's a really cool up and coming area, very similar to, like, Steve Lidstone lives out in Niagara, and that's a wine region. Prince Edward County has become a really popular tourist region for wine, beer, trendy food stops, etc. So it's super cool. So we bought a cottage in 2017 there, and we have a huge yard, big cottage, and lots of space. So that became the hobby for a while, where it was like Monday to Thursday, just work all day, maybe even work late into the evening. And then Friday, pretty much every Friday, we would head to the cottage, and that's where I would do, like Saturday morning, get on the tractor, do the lawn, probably have a beer there while I'm doing it. Um, but you just have all sorts of stuff. We plant trees, plant our gardens, and we had a nice dock. And even in the winter, we would still go up. It is a
Oh,
good
just
beer,
yeah.
apparently.
Yeah, Chris Jason, he's a paddling coach at a local club here in Dartmouth, called Micmac, and he was actually one of the first coaches that I worked with when I moved to Halifax. And we had a bunch of years where I hung out on coach boats with him. He wore kind of some pretty intense um, like snowmobiling gear, and I was showing up to practices in like a light wind jacket, and he just laughed at me like, "This is ridiculous." So we're going out on the boat in November, and it's it's freezing. So anyway, but yeah, no, Chris, alternate reality. I actually drove by North Brewing today. I was over in Dartmouth, and so it inspired me to get to drink this beer on the call tonight.
Nice. So yeah, the cottage became sort of the biggest hobby in Canada. Now in Arizona, I'd say uh, I haven't really had any hobbies yet. It's definitely been setting up a house, setting up all an American life, all sorts of little things that you have to do and research you have to do about becoming. I'm not a citizen. I'm not even a resident, just a worker.
Mhm.
But I still had to get like. It took a while before I realized I needed a social security number, so I had to do that, and we had to find a place to live and a vehicle and insurance and all those little things that you don't want to have to think about, but we've been doing. And so we still have some furniture that we have to do uh, to get to fill out our home. But now it's been a whole different life because now all of a sudden now we're working from home, and so we're setting up our home, but you shouldn't really leave. So we're trying to order stuff online. Some of the shopping you still have to go out for, like you said, groceries and stuff.
Mhm.
So I haven't really like I find the days are really weird. Like today, I told you I got up, I was doing work, took the in-laws to the airport, came back. But even then, during the day, it was like they were here for 2 weeks. So like at one point, I just stopped and I kind of did all the laundry from the bedroom they were staying in and cleaned their bathroom and did all that. And then went back to work and just like the lines between work and doing whatever you need to do are all blurred now. So lots of reading, trying to walk Chloe often so she gets her sun, sitting by the pool. We try to do that once a day,
Yeah.
the good stuff.
Yeah, knowing you, and you just mentioned this, knowing you the way that I do, I know you're probably reading at least one or two interesting books right now. What are you reading?
Yeah, so this is what I'm reading at the moment. Uh, it's called Mastermind: How to Think Like Sherlock Holmes by someone named Maria Konnikova. She has a new book coming out where she basically stopped her career as a writer. She's a doctor in psychology. She wrote two books. She wrote that book all about thinking and actively observing. Um, and then she wrote another book that I haven't read yet about con men a bit and how that works, being like a con person and preying on different people's, I guess, judgments and things like that. And then her new book is that she quit last year or took a pause on her writing to become a pro poker player and did that successfully. And so she's writing a book about that. So with that book about to come out, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go back and read some of her old stuff because it seems like it's really good stuff. And then I'm finishing The Performance Cortex, which is a book about neuroscience a little bit. Um, it's got some baseball ties to it. It talks about neuroscience of baseball and a product that they've been trying to sell to baseball teams. But it's a slower book. I think we were messaging in our group with Dana is that like the idea comes out good, and then once you get two-thirds through, it's one of those books where you're just like, I wish I could just finish this book right now. But I have a really hard time just stopping a book. I can't like put it down and put it away if I
Yeah.
didn't finish it. There's like an angst. So I'm going to finish it, but I'm not as happy about it anymore. I wouldn't say it's an amazing book. It's all right.
Nice. Corey, I'm trying to think back to when you and I first met. Do you what would your memory of that be?
It had to have been a spin, though.
It was probably a spin, yeah, conference. Was it the Montreal one
No, it would have been before
before
that.
that? Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
That's all right. It's been a long time. We've had lots of good memories. We don't have to remember the first one.
no, we've had many spins and then smacks and other things in your house and my house.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, I know you mentioned the spin yesterday was Ryan, which was your 30th birthday.
Hmm.
Which year was that? Was that 2014? Was that?
That was 2014. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was in Montreal. That was your first year in Montreal, I think, actually.
Yeah. So we would have met that year. Maybe it was
Oh
spin.
yeah.
I feel like we knew each other before that though.
I don't know. So on the on that topic, or sort of on that topic, question is, what's your favorite? What's your go-to drink? Is it beer, whiskey, gin, some mixture of all of them?
I'd say whiskey is the go-to, and then beer is the second. Right now, don't even have gin. I don't even have a real bar card or a liquor cabinet set up yet, so that'll be on the next couple items. I have a few different whiskeys right now. I have two scotches and three different bourbons. Being in the US and the southern US right now, I'm trying to sample some of the bourbons that I didn't see as often when I was in Montreal.
What
So
are the bourbons that are there? Yeah, they're
right
different.
now I have a bottle of Four Roses, and well, Makers is something that's everywhere, so that one's not special. But I have Four Roses, Makers, and Elijah Craig small batch. And then scotches, I have a Highland Park and a Glenfiddich. Usually, I like to keep, one or two scotches, an Irish whiskey, a Canadian whiskey, a bourbon. So eventually, I'll get the collection up. I like to have every one or two nights. I like to have a glass of whiskey with sometimes ice, sometimes no ice. Sometimes I'll make an old fashioned or a Manhattan. And, just sip on that while you watch a movie or do some reading or finish whatever you're doing.
Very nice.
But I
Okay,
do enjoy a hazy IPA.
a hazy IPA, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, we've got a whopping 13 people watching right now, which is what we've been hovering around the whole time. So we haven't really dipped, but we haven't had any big peaks either. 15. Damn, they must have heard that.
It's going up.
Um,
Do you think Chloe will get more viewers?
maybe we just got a hashtag. Like, what's the hashtag for that? Like pups of Instagram or something?
Pups of Instagram, National Puppy Day.
Yeah, then we'd get it for sure. I'm wondering if anyone that's listening still has any questions for Cory or for us as a team, and we'll give you about, I don't know, a minute to type it in there. I think you just have to click. You can either click on that comment button there, or you can.
I just commented questions.
There's a little
Um,
question mark tab down there.
I have a question for you now that you're at home the whole time.
Hmm.
This whole parenting, teaching, coaching situation. Is this changing some of your strategies? Have you thought about pushing your kids into new activities now that you're home?
Pushing them into new activities. It's funny. I talked to Ryan about this a little bit last night. Today was a bit of a different story. Um, Jackson, we did some other things, but we didn't really do any sports. But you know, I'm trying my best not to push too much, I guess would be the biggest answer there. Like I'm tempted to, right? Like being in the world of sports
Hmm.
and having some type of at least perceived in my head expertise in the area. So I try to make sure that I allow him to sample a bunch of different sports, try to figure out what he likes and doesn't like, and don't push him too hard, and just try my best to be supportive. Um, of him, whether it's he had a bad day or game or practice or whatever, um, or if he had a great one. So I think that's something that I've really been trying to do, and he wants to try everything. Like um, I think Nobes is still on. He hooked me up with a professional lacrosse team when they moved here, so I've been working with a couple of the players locally, and so Kyle sets us up with tickets to games, and Jackson and I go, and he like fell in love with lacrosse, and so he got a lacrosse stick for his birthday, and he wants to play this year, but he's already signed up for baseball, he's already signed up for soccer, and there's kind of like that limit, like how many sports is too many sports to be having a 7-year-old do in one summer.
Well, and speaking of Noble, like he was putting his kids through a full boot camp today. Like, where does that fit on your LTAD model for Jackson? Are you putting him through boot camp, or are you letting him just jump off couches again?
We mix it up. Sometimes there's some challenges that go out there. You've got to, like the other day we were playing catch, and we set a goal that we would not go inside until, and it was -3, but we wouldn't go inside until he caught 10 balls in a row. And it took like almost 2 hours. So, it took some perseverance there. Now that's not, the same level as a boot camp or anything like that. But, I think it's a good lesson for him, because I think he thought because we did it a couple days ago and it didn't take quite that long. He thought he'd go out there, catch
Yeah.
10 balls, and then we'd head inside. Um, and that obviously didn't work out that way. So, but he never wanted to quit once, so I thought that was nice, uh, for sure. We did get one question, Corey. It's from Ryan McDonald, and he said, "Is the USOC, so the United States Olympic Committee facilities being dry? Is that a pro or a con?"
That's a con for sure. It definitely reduces the social interaction within the facility, as Ryan can attest to. But we don't need to go into more details. I know my
No.
wife also asked a question about short online training videos. So the question is, are you gonna use your children again to demonstrate more exercise videos, Scott, during this quarantine?
I would love to try. They're not the best models for training videos, to be honest. They have a
I'm
very
sure
short
Mariko
attention
just
spans.
runs away
Yeah.
within 10 seconds and is in the next room.
Anytime you don't want her to be doing anything, um, she's doing it, and then when you do want her to do something, she's gone. Oh, Josh
All right.
Kraus. What's up, Josh? From St. FX in Antigonish,
Yeah,
Nova
he
Scotia.
came out to Montreal not that long ago, maybe 6 months ago. I think it was the winter time. I think he caught a Habs game with his dad. Came to
Hmm.
the INS. Anyway, Josh, how are we tackling training? Well, we have all an inventory of all of our players, and basically every coach is responsible for checking with a certain number of players, and we all have people that we check in with on a daily or every other day period, and just try and check out what kind of access they have. So, like I said, there are places where, like, there's someone who'll be like, I have a full gym in my garage, I'm lifting normally. Or someone else says, hey, I have keys to the private gym in my small town and I can go in by myself. And there's others that say, I have no access, so I'm in my living room. So we have kind of a variety of programs that we've built out, whether that's fitting in with the training that we were already doing in spring training and still trying to project along towards a potential season in the next couple of months. We have options with some weights, but not all the weights we had before. We have options with just body weight. And so we're trying to customize what each person is doing based on the situation they're in. And as best as we can, the body weight stuff, I think, will never get super specific to baseball or just high performance training in general. I'd say it's probably one of those things where you just do your best to stay active so you don't lose capacities when it's finally time to go, okay, I'm back on to a normal program. So that's kind of how we're approaching it right now. We're trying to make sure that we can give each player what they're capable of doing at this time.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like even with the announcement today of the Olympics officially being postponed to 2021, essentially, really changed a lot of things. Like, I had some programs going still that were as much as we could, like as much as we could, trying to maintain, max strength, trying to maintain speed, doing a bunch of sort of hill sprinting, um, with paddling being a little bit more of an endurance type sport. We had some sort of power endurance aspects in there. And after that announcement today, it kind of changed up the focus a bit. There's a little bit back to maybe a little bit of general strength type stuff, and just kind of, and also just health, and just have some fun, right? Like some of the athletes I've given sort of a roll the dice and pick your program based on what the dice says essentially for the day,
Yeah.
and just to mix it up, because this is a crazy time for them. So along those lines, Jay Melhado asked a question of you, Corey.
Well, I don't think it was me. I think it was you, but that's okay. I haven't really picked up any new hobbies. Like I said, I switched from training at the facility to training online. And I find I still do a lot of work and a lot of reading for work. So I still have a bunch of projects that we're trying to do. And then with Masha and I having just moved here 6 weeks ago, or 8 weeks ago now, we had a place to stay and a vehicle when I got here for spring training, but we've had to sort of like convert to a permanent life in Arizona, or at least a semi-permanent for the next couple of years. So there's been just all sorts of, like, every day it feels like there's another errand to run around, stocking up this place in case of zombie apocalypse, in terms of toilet paper and canned goods, and we still have lots of furniture to buy and fill all of our rooms and decorate and all those things. So definitely have not had any new hobbies since this has happened.
Um, yeah, for me, I think I've had a couple projects, I guess. My neighbor cut down my tree in my backyard the other day. Adam was actually here Adam Douglas was here during a hurricane in the fall, and it bows right almost into our kitchen window. So anyway, we finally got it taken down, and it fell the wrong way and it fell into our house and it broke the eavesdrop. So I was up on the roof the other day trying to rig it closed and I was not successful. So I got to do a better job of that later on. We also had a deck rebuild project that we did last summer. So we had a bunch of extra wood laying around, and I had this thought in my head that I was going to build basically a target board for Jackson to throw like plyo balls, like driveline plyo
Yes.
balls at. So him and I set that as a project one day. So we did some woodworking there, which was pretty fun. We painted a nice little target on it.
Already
And
trying to up his velo. I like it, Scott. I like
that's
it.
right, man. And the warm up drills are disguised as actual drills. So we're having some fun. I don't know if I'm going to cause long term damage. We'll see. I now have a 1-year-old who's crying upstairs. I can hear him. So if I mess Jackson's arm up, at least I have another shot.
That's it. I mean, Boat is the truth anyway, right? He's full of potential.
Yeah, exactly.
Good to see.
Selby, what's up, man?
Is Selby getting a taste for his appearance later this week?
Yeah, yeah. He's always signing on in the last minute though, so
So
he
what's the
doesn't he
weather
doesn't
like
know
right
what's
now in
happening.
Halifax?
Today was I woke up to some like 2-inch diameter snowflakes, which then turned into like torrential rains. And then by the end of the day, it was sunny but still cold. So that's basically what it's like.
What kind of temperature?
Minus like 5 at the beginning, and then it probably got up to right around 0.
Hmm.
So nothing, desert like.
No. The desert like heat, you don't even want that. It's too much.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, we've been on this chat for like 43 minutes, which I think is a pretty decent
Is that a
length
new
of
world
time.
record?
It is, yeah. Did we did, yeah. And Africa.
It was a double whammy.
Yeah, exactly. But so Cory, thanks for hanging out and chatting with me tonight. And I hope anyone who's on here today wants to tune in. Tomorrow, I'm talking to Dana Agar Newman from the Canadian Sport Institute Pacific, and that should be fun. We'll see. I've had a couple of more extroverted type people on the last 2 days with Ryan and Cory. Dana can be, but not always. So
I
we're gonna
think
have
he
some
I
fun.
think he qualifies as one of those most interesting men in the world.
Yeah. So I just got to
We
really.
know we know he's great at what he does and he's a brilliant guy, but he really enjoys being out in the woods, covered in mud, not being able to be seen by any humans for days at a time,
That
trying to
will
just leave with a deer or a bear.
that will 100% be front and center in the conversation tomorrow.
Absolutely. Why he hides out in the bushes.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, Cory.
Thanks, Scott.
See you guys.
Bye.